Good evening, America, and this is Q News Tonight, the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news. And it's 7 p.m., Monday, April 20th, 2020. We queue up breaking Q News tonight to report at least 19 are now dead after Canada's worst mass shooting in the country's history. We have some news on this. Watch this.
Gunman who led officers on an overnight manhunt has been identified as 51-year-old Gabriel Wortman. He was killed in a confrontation with police, but not before leading police through multiple communities, with a number of structures lit on fire along the way. In a bizarre twist, Mounties had warned the gunman may have been impersonating an officer, saying he might be driving a look-alike RCMP vehicle and wearing a uniform. During the manhunt, residents were urged to stay inside their homes and lock their doors, as officers swarmed in on the hunt for Wortman, described as armed and dangerous and on the run.
While this does not seem like a shocking event in America, this is dramatic in Canada. The number of victims continues to rise in the wake of a killing spree that is already the worst mass shooting in Canadian history, with at least 19 people dead, including the gunman. Nova Scotia Royal Canadian Mounted Police said at a press conference this afternoon. The rampage began late Saturday night and concluded about 14 hours later when the shooter was killed by police in a gas station parking lot in a community outside Halifax.
Police said they are investigating 16 crime scenes and the death toll could rise. Among the dead is RCMP officer Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year-old veteran of the force and a mother of two. Constance Stevenson died protecting others. She was answering the call of duty, something she had done every day when she went to work for 23 years, end quote. Mr. Trudeau said, another RCMP officer was injured in the attack. The man who police have identified as the shooter is Gabriel Wortman, a 51-year-old denturist and owner of the Atlantic Denture Clinic. Police have said that during the spree, Mr. Wortman was dressed in an RCMP uniform and for at least some period, driving a car that had been fabricated to look like a police cruiser.
One acquaintance who had not seen Mr. Wortman for 10 months said he came to the door on Sunday morning with a rifle and a pistol banging to get in. Quote, "He came here to kill me, that's no question about that." The acquaintance told the Globe and Mail. Police have said that Mr. Wortman knew some of his victims, but others appear to have been completely random.
So good evening, America. It's 7 p.m. Monday, April 20, 2020. It's time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories next on Q News Tonight.
Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight.
Welcome to Q News Tonight. We are live and unscripted, so anything can happen in our news reporting. Tonight we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. So stay tuned as we bring you amazing good news stories even despite coronavirus. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor, Misty Eyes.
Hi, I'm looking forward to some of the apologies that we're going to get tonight.
And my anchor partner, Napoleon Plays.
Hey everybody, we're also going to be reporting on food banks and just how much they're stepping up their game. It really is good news. You'll hear more about it.
Let's cue up tonight's news. During the COVID-19 crisis, Q News Tonight will bring you today's bullet points on coronavirus, the most important news of the day that we call quarantine quickies. Here are just the headlines for Monday, April 20th, 2020. First in Corona Quarantine Quickies is the coronavirus facts for April 20th, 2020. We report on the facts for April 20th that world cases of corona is now over 2.3 million. U.S. cases is approximately 767,000 cases, and we remind you, U.S. population in the world is 4.25%, but now the United States percent of total quarantine world cases is 31% in the United States. We also report on April 20th that world deaths has crossed 166,000, while U.S. deaths are 41,000. Again, with only 4.25%, nearly a quarter of all of the deaths in the world are here in the U.S. We report today on April 20th that the number of tests done in America is now just short of 4 million. But with the U.S. population being 328 million, that means that the United States has only tested 1.1% of Americans. And the medical community recommends in reopening goal of a minimum of 10%. We post here the winner's circle of states that are doing above average jobs in testing. Number 3, Louisiana at 3%. Number 2, New York at 3.1%. And number 1 is Rhode Island at 3.2%. And remember, the reopening goal should be a minimum, according to the medical community, of 10%. Q News tonight hopes you're not living in any of these Hall of Shame states. Number 5, California, where they've only tested 0.71%. Number 4, Virginia. Number 3, Texas. Number 2, Kansas. And poor number 1, Puerto Rico, has tested just 0.34% of their population. Then we report that on March 6, Donald Trump told reporters during a visit to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, quote, "Anybody that wants a test can get a test. That is what the bottom line is." And that was said more than 6 weeks ago. Today, on April 20th, we report a brand new poll that has been, and I've lost a brand new poll from the Wall Street Journal for April 13th to 15th, that 60% of Americans are more concerned that relaxing stay-at-home restrictions will lead to more COVID-19 deaths than the restrictions hurting the economy. The poll goes on to report that there is a 20% increase of Americans' fear that family members might get coronavirus just in the last 30 days. The poll reports that there is a 50% increase of Americans saying coronavirus has changed daily lives permanently. The April 13th to 15th Wall Street Journal poll reports President Trump's approval rating has been unchanged from April 15, 2019 to April 15, 2020, despite impeachment and the coronavirus pandemic. 52% continue to disapprove versus 46% approve, unchanged. The president's approval rating is unchanged as it relates to 52% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of coronavirus. The new poll also asks, who do Americans trust in handling the pandemic? At the top of the list, 69% for the Centers for Disease Control. At the bottom of the list is the President and Vice President of the United States. And just 34% of Americans are satisfied with the federal government's ensuring that there are enough tests and satisfied with the amount of medical supplies available. In March, 53% versus in April, 73% of Americans worried about family members catching coronavirus, and in March, 26% versus April, 77% of Americans saying coronavirus has changed their lives. James McInturf said, in the announcement of this new poll that the poll represents a powerful signal that the country isn't ready for business as usual on May 1st. And Jeff Horwitz, who also participated in the poll, said socially and economically, we have seen a sea change in attitude in just the last month. So that is Quarantine Quickies, the facts for April 20, 2020.
Quarantine Quickies. The Gallup poll shows 40% of Americans believe COVID-19 is less deadly than the flu. Gallup's new survey finds 40% of all Americans believe coronavirus and the seasonal flu are nearly the same. And worse, over half of Americans with a conservative news media diet, 57%, believe COVID-19 is no more deadly than the seasonal flu. As messages from conservative and Republican leaders have become more aligned with scientific consensus about the seriousness of the threat posed by the coronavirus, the survey found even larger gaps between those with liberal versus conservative news diets on whether the media is giving too much attention to the coronavirus, which is 28% from the liberals and 71% from conservatives, and whether Trump is doing an excellent or good job of handling the U.S. response to coronavirus, 11% for liberals and 94% for conservatives. The medical and scientific fact, however, is that COVID-19 is far more infectious than seasonal flu and 10 times more likely to cause death from exposure.
Quarantine Quickie. Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz apologize for their medical ignorance on coronavirus. The television doctors didn't...
Let's cue up first what they said in the news.
We don't usually have a video for quickies, I'm sorry. Just watch this video.
Now, last night I said we as a society have chosen to live with certain controllable deadly risk every day. Smoking, auto crashes, swimming. And yes, I know that those are not contagious. So probably bad examples.
I've realized my comments on risks around opening schools have confused and upset people, which was never my intention. I misspoke. As a heart surgeon, I've spent my career fighting to save lives in the operating room by minimizing risks. At the same time, I'm being asked constantly, how will we be able to get people back to their normal lives? To do that, one of the important steps will be figuring out how do we get our children safely back to school. We know for many kids, school is a place of security, nutrition, and learning that is missing right now. These are issues we are all wrestling with, and I will continue looking for solutions to beat this virus.
The television doctors didn't have a good weekend when it comes to coronavirus. First, Dr. Phil McGraw, who is not a medical doctor, by the way, said on Fox News, joining the host Laura Ingraham in advocating for the economy to be reopened faster than medical professionals have advised. Dr. Phil said, quote, "The fact of the matter is we have people dying. 45,000 people die a year from automobile accidents, 480,000 from cigarettes, 360,000 a year from swimming pools. But we don't shut down the country for that. But yet, we are doing it for this, and the fallout is going to last for years because people's lives are being destroyed." Okay, wait, let's fact check this for a second. Only 36,000 people die a year in swimming pools, not 360,000. After widespread backlash, he said in a YouTube post, quote, "Just to follow up on those who had comments on my appearance on Laura Ingram's show last night, if you didn't like my choice of words, I apologize for that." Meanwhile, Dr. Oz backtracked on comments he made on Fox News. The TV doctor faced backlash for saying on Hannity that schools should reopen to get the country going again, as that, quote, may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality. He said these deaths, quote, might be a trade-off some folks would consider. The Dr. Oz show host had since apologized, saying he misspoke when he minimized the risk of potential loss of life of hundreds of thousands of people.
Quarantine Quickies. New York allows wedding applications and ceremony online for the first time ever. The novel coronavirus won't be halting New York weddings anymore. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo plans to sign an executive order allowing couples to get marriage licenses remotely and allowing clerks to perform ceremonies over video. said Melissa DeRosa, secretary to the governor. Quote, "So that's an avenue people want to go down? It will be available to them." DeRosa told reporters on Saturday. Following the announcement, the governor briefly joked about the order, saying, quote, "Video marriage ceremonies. There's now no excuse when the question comes up for marriage. No excuse," Cuomo said. "You can do it by Zoom, yes or no." Most New York marriage bureaus have been closed and have not issued licenses in the past weeks. Similar measures have been implemented in Ohio and the state of Colorado. This is the first time this has ever been implemented in a widespread way.
Quarantine quickies. Food banks growing amidst food shortage. The Washington Post is reporting today that food banks are at an all-time high record for trying to keep up with demand. In Atlanta, a drive-through food bank had more than 5,000 cars. This has been reported in many cities as concerns about the economy, unemployment, and food scarcity are continuing to grow. Q News Tonight encourages you to support your local LGBTQ food support programs. Q anchor Al Ferguson will be assisting tomorrow here in Wilton Manors, Fort Lauderdale, as local businesses Fab Scout and Pink Subs will feed people dinner in the Wilton Shops parking lot to anyone who asks. Q News Tonight plans to show it to you in tomorrow's Good News.
Quarantine, I'm sorry. So that is our special segment for the LGBT community called Quarantine Quickies for Monday, April 20th, 2020. You can count on Q News Tonight to give you the facts of the pandemic. After bringing you the quickies in the news, we will follow the headlines with a segment we call Coronavirus Good News. With COVID-19, we can all use a little good news. We report on the best of America and the world while in pandemic. We call this segment Coronavirus Good News for Monday, April 20th, 2020. Coronavirus Good News. Together at Home raises $128 million for COVID-19. We have prepared a package on this. Watch this.
Global Citizen says Saturday's 8-hour One World Together at Home live concert raised just shy of $128 million to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. All of the performances were heartfelt, but the Rolling Stones among the most buzzed about. Same for Lady Gaga's performance of Smile.
Smile even though it's aching. It's been a long.
And Lizzo's take on the Sam Cooke classic, A Change Is Gonna Come.
Every major network, countless stars, and all three late-night hosts entertained hundreds of millions with Lady Gaga's One World Together at Home Saturday night. The event raised more than $128 million for healthcare workers, and that is definitely coronavirus good news.
Coronavirus good news. Drag episode of Golden Girls is must-see TV. In quarantine, the LGBTQ community loves drag, almost as much as the Golden Girls, which, by the way, runs 24 hours a day now on Logo TV. And this video is coronavirus good news. Watch this.
FaceTime? Well, what I really need is some FaceTime with that hunky new butcher at the AMP. No, is this thing even working? Dorothy, is that you?
No, it's Buddy Ebsen and Drag Blanche. Of course it's me.
Honey, don't put yourself down like that. That's my job.
Well, it's your only job right now. The museum you work at is closed indefinitely, and I hate to break it to you, so are your legs.
Coronavirus good news. Call Me By Your Name 2, a fan trailer. In social isolation, there is little to do. So these guys get creative and imagine a Call Me By Your Name 2, and it becomes hilarious entertainment for all of us, which is definitely coronavirus good news.
In coronavirus good news, Brad Paisley is spreading good news all over the place. Before we tell you this story, we've prepared a little bit about Brad Paisley. Watch this.
we have an exciting announcement. We're able to open the store much earlier than anticipated. With the help of our fantastic referral agencies, referral partners, we are happy to announce that we are now also offering aid to the families affected by the recent tornado in Nashville and also the coronavirus outbreak. So the store will be open tomorrow, Saturday, from 11 to 5.
Again, we celebrate the release of There Is No Iron Beer with a Paisley pub crawl on Zoom. Invite 9 or 10 of your friends, or however many you've got, and have a Zoom drinking party from the hours of 7 to 8 Central, 8 to 9 Eastern, 5 o'clock somewhere, California. And I'll hop from Zoom to Zoom and go do a pub crawl.
Let me get it here.
So,
Let me hold it for you. Can you read it here?
Mix well.
Can you read it here?
Record it in here. Don't spill any.
That's enough of it. I see no gray. This is gonna ruin everything I've worked towards in my image. Using me for my talents.
At Q News tonight, we ask, can an individual be good news all by themselves? Well, this weekend, Brad Paisley certainly comes close. First, he reveals a new food pantry and life supplies location in Nashville called The Store. It's available for anyone who is in need, no questions asked. Then he Zoom bombs people on Zoom online parties while none of the guests know he is going to join them. The reactions are uplifting and priceless. Next, he dyes his wife's hair live on air, online, he's never done before, something that he's never done, as her shocked face proves. And finally, he sings a new song called There Is No I in Beer, which is great as a tribute to healthcare workers in coronavirus. Not bad for one man on one weekend. And that is certainly coronavirus good news.
It may feel that the world is in crisis, and that means now is the time to come together. The LGBTQ community must come together.
Are LGBTQ voices important to you? Can the news of the world have a gay community perspective?
If you, like us, think the answer is a resounding yes, then like and subscribe to Q News Tonight on YouTube and Facebook. And we are going to queue up now Q's Q&A. Every Thursday night, we do this special segment on Q News Tonight at 7 p.m. called Q's Q&A. This Thursday, join Dr. Howard Grossman, a renowned HIV and infectious disease doctor, as we ask your questions about COVID-19. We encourage you to join our Facebook group, which we're going to show you here in a moment, tonight, and it allows you to ask questions that we can incorporate in Q's Q&A. So we're going to begin that tonight.
Q's Q&A. Question number 1. Can the virus be on my shoes, clothes, even hair? Answer. The risk is extremely low. First, self-isolation is 6 feet requirement, and that dramatically reduces any risk. The virus can live on clothing, shoes, and your hair for a very short period of time. It is recommended, though, that you only have a single pair of shoes to leave your quarantine. You can wash them as you see fit. Second, anytime you have potential contact, do not touch your face, but do sanitize your hands.
Q's Q&A's. Question number 2. Can I catch coronavirus from takeout containers, cardboard boxes, and the like? Answer. The risk is extremely low. Again, medical science is saying that the virus could live less than 24 hours, perhaps even less than 1 hour. Containers, delivery, UPS boxes, etc. have very little risk. When you have them at your home, open them, and then throw them away as you open your food and plate it with your utensils. Then, before you consume your food, sanitize your hands and your face.
Q's Q&A. Question number 3. Food concern from Smithfield and Tyson. Can I get COVID-19 from places like these plants? No. The FDA advised today that there is no risk of food contamination as there is no evidence of the virus living in food production. In this instance, the virus could not live long enough in the food chain to be in your home. Finally, all meat preparations that are cooked prevent any possibility of virus. Then always, before you eat, sanitize your hands before consuming any food. And this is what we'll do as our special on Thursday night in Q's Q&A.
We ask you, do our gay cultural stories impact you, your friends, and family?
Start a watch party and get your circle involved in our conversation as it supports the LGBTQ community.
We cue up tonight the story in the USA by reporting that the big three automakers are backing LGBTQ rights in Michigan's new civil rights law. Misty, tell us what's happening in Michigan.
Well, this is incredibly good news. Jeep, Ford, GMC, and Fiat Chrysler have all gathered around to endorse a Michigan initiative aiming at banning discrimination against LGBTQ people. This is unheard of, and this is amazing good news. And I have a quote from Ford's Lori Castu. In order to continue to compete and win globally, we must be able to recruit and retain the talented people from all different kinds of backgrounds. When we have major corporations like this backing us and supporting us and showing us that we are welcome and loved, that sends a signal to everyone. And go Michigan.
It's interesting to me because even as large, GM once was and hovers right at the top as being one of the largest corporations in the world. Even at the size of the major three automakers, they have been somewhat conservative in terms of civil rights promotion, especially in the LGBT community over the last couple of decades. I think it's a great sign that all three of them have come out in support of a civil rights law in Michigan.
Q News Tonight is part of the Happening Out television network. We are the Daily News. We're also part of the most popular live gay TV show in the world every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on It's Happening Out.
It's a talk show like television's The View with a whole lot of gay people.
See, I didn't sing tonight.
That's okay.
And the world clapped.
We cue up the world by reporting tonight that trans influencer urged followers to out gay men in Morocco, where it is illegal to be gay. Napoleon, tell us about what's going on in Morocco.
Yes, and unfortunately, we are all living through a global pandemic where it is estimated that by the end, we will all know at least one person who has died of the disease. Imagine if instead of the physical virus, the disease were society outing, shaming, and attacking our LGBTQ community, where your friends vanished from social media, stopped returning your phone calls, and became completely untraceable, leaving you to wonder if they were kicked out of home, brutally tortured by family, or if they took their own life to escape their fears and humiliation. That's exactly what is happening in Morocco, where it is estimated that every gay person will know another that committed suicide. The person in question, and well, not in question, the person that did these acts, that posted about this, her name is Nayaful Mousis, but she goes by Sofia Taloni. Her Instagram accounts mounted about 600,000 followers, and they were subsequently deleted last Friday. She was doing Instagram live streams, which would hit about 100,000 people from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it was finally stopped by Friday. She urged her followers to create fake accounts on Grindr, on Planet Romeo, on similar gay finding apps, pretend to be a gay guy, insisted that they should put that they are a bottom so that they would be the ones that gets fucked, looking for other tops to find, and then in search of a hunt for the gay people that were around. A quote from her: "It could even show you your husband, your son. It could show you your neighbor from next door. It could show you your cousin, your uncle, everyone. You faggots are ruining this country." There has been a lot of fallout from this. One specific person who is an LGBT activist and 19 years old said, quote, "She basically announced a war on gay people. We're really scared, and she has ruined the image of this queer community forever. This means a total loss of our underground queer culture. We are wondering if there is any safe space for us to go after all of this ends." A lot of the lucky ones that might not have had it as bad, that might not have been kicked out during a pandemic with nowhere to go, were kept and were somewhat safe with their families by being tolerated. Families that would try to force them or convince them to change who they were, telling them that it was wrong or incorrect. The other lucky ones were simply blackmailed into other deeds, but the more unfortunate ones ended up homeless, murdered, or committed suicide. Anyone that was under 18 years old could not be helped because of the law there. This is one of the more tragic stories that we've had to report on here, so I hope that you'll look it up for more information on what it's like to be gay in Morocco.
Misty, I just recently become familiar with this story. Not that you have to be the trans expert here at the table, but why would something like this happen?
I wish I had the answer for you. I think that every walk, breed, race, denomination of individual has sick people in it. I read this story when I saw it on tonight's agenda. I was super glad it wasn't assigned to me because I am disgusted by this. I don't think you should ever out another person, period, end of story, point blank. You should never, ever, ever out somebody else. Whether they are trans or gay, you should let them do it when they are safest, because you don't know somebody's financial situation or emotional situation. And yes, people commit suicide when they're outed too soon. And when somebody's living stealth or privately or in secrecy or in their closet, it's usually for their safety. And for her to go on and tell, what was it, 300,000 people that were watching her live to report, to go secretly create these gay accounts and out the Moroccan gay people, I don't know what could have possibly ticked off in her head for her to do this. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why she would do this. As a trans woman, you would expect her to be an ally. You would expect her to at least sympathize with living in a closet and understanding judgment and fear and attacking from other people.
Supporting others in our community. But part of what they describe about her is that she may have, because she doesn't have a relationship with her father, hasn't for over 20 years, and now she lives in Turkey where she is has her own beauty line, where she is a beauty influencer, or at least was, that none of this impacts her anymore. So maybe she just wants to make other people as miserable as she has been, allowing them to find social media posts and docs.
And before we move on, it's a very painful story because constantly we're talking about the LGBTQ alphabet, and that you're not a part of the community, you're not a part of the community. This story is hitting right at the heart of that discussion, which is very sad to me. America Tonight, we are broadcasting from our studio set in the middle of the World AIDS Museum and Education Center. And this education center in museum is in the heart of Wilton Manors and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we always joke, we are coming from the gayest place on planet Earth. We continue to queue up the world tonight by reporting that a gay couple in Poland hands out rainbow masks to fight COVID-19 and their country's LGBT-free zones. Misty, tell us what's happening here.
This is a story that I'm glad to have. This is a story about a gay couple from Poland. By the way, cześć means hello and goodbye in Polish. A gay couple in Poland named Jacob and David. They made over 300 rainbow pride masks and passed them out for free in the LGBT-free zones. Now, I said that correctly, LGBT-free zone. 1/3 of the Polish population has LGBT-free zones, where LGBT anything is not tolerated at all. But these individuals, and in fact, in Polish, they say that they're considered the plague. So these two gay individuals thought, we're gonna make sanitation masks for people to prevent them from a real plague. He went into these LGBTQ free zones and they were welcomed, and they were shocked and happy to be welcomed. It was great to see, quote, it was great to see that rainbow didn't scare people, but will help them being safe, end quote. At one point, a security guard approached them and told them that they're in a private area, realizing that they were LGBTQ, but then added, but when you come with such a great initiative, I don't mind. They passed out 300 masks in 3 different cities in LGBTQ free zones, and it was well received. I think this is a beautiful story.
You know, you go ahead.
We were covering this story as we announced the region-free, the LGBT zone in Poland, and it is nice now to see that that the LGBT community is using this as a time to not just help people that are in crisis, because many of us are just good people, but that we're looking to change the perspective of what it means to be gay for that region, for the regions in Poland. So maybe a couple of good things could come out of this at the same time.
This is a terrible story. And the reason this is a terrible story is they're doing this in a society that is frequently very oppressive to gay, and it makes me mad as fuck that we haven't thought about this in the United States. Congratulations, guys. You've done an amazing thing for Poland. Next, we have the big finish. There are many stories today we only want to mention briefly. Let's see if missed each other and lighten things up a little from coronavirus. Let's have a lightning round on the LGBT news of the day and news with an LGBT perspective. So here we go. Q News tonight, the big finish. Big finish story number 1. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says he is, quote, practicing making babies with his wife in quarantine.
What can I say except you're welcome? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My mind is all over the place with this. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is my other husband, and you're welcome for that. My husband and I have also been practicing making babies during quarantine, so go for it. And can I have a hidden camera to your bedroom?
Yeah, let's come back to The Rock, and can I say, never before in my entire life have I wished so hard to be a 35-year-old white woman with a strap on. Big finish story. Piers Morgan offers an apology to Lady Gaga after mocking her coronavirus fundraising efforts.
He actually tweeted this, and it said, quote, "I owe you an apology, Lady Gaga. This was a great initiative that raised a fortune, entertained people, and will help save lives. I was also a perfect illustration of a major star using their platform properly in this crisis," to Lady Gaga. Congrats, and sorry for originally questioning it. And I don't have any way to mock Piers Morgan for this. It took balls to do this, and I really wish we lived in a country where we could see this more in the leading voices and politicians. We cannot learn as a nation if we follow people who cannot admit when they are dangerously wrong.
By the way, Piers Morgan, if you weren't such an asshole, you wouldn't have to apologize so frequently.
Right. And honestly, I've never liked you either, and apparently Misty hasn't either, but who cares? She raised $128 million, Piers. Maybe be a little slower to open your mouth the next time.
Truth.
The big finish. The story is the Texas governor, Abbott, on reopening the state during Corona by saying, "God's hand is working through me."
Perhaps God's hand is giving us the testing and vaccine, and we are shoving her foot in her mouth.
My mind is all insert foot mouth. The visuals are intense. My mind is going all over the place with this. We've reported week after week of ministers dying because they thought God would protect them from this virus. That is not the case. But on the other hand, if I'm going to look at both sides of this situation, there are definite tumbleweed areas of Texas. Texas is the second largest state in our union, and there are definite tumbleweed areas where there's nobody, and those little small towns and pops probably need to get back to living. But in cities like Dallas and Houston, for example, I think they should stay shut down.
Governor Abbott, can I remind you that your state made Q News Tonight's Hall of Shame tonight?
That part.
You have among the worst testing history of all 50 states.
Yeah.
Sorry for our LGBT brothers and sisters that live there. But I suppose it makes some twisted sense that the most devout of us would also have the smallest problem by sending so many people to God. Problem is, I believe in God too, but I also believe in people. That's the difference in Governor Abbott and me. That seems to me to be very evangelical on my part, but I'm not a politician or a religious leader that cares more about money and power. The big finish. The story is iconic gay fashion label house of Holland shuts down.
The founder, Henry Holland, said, "Saying goodbye became the most responsible thing to do. Take heed, protesters arguing that our country should stay open right now. Governors that need to hear them, because right now the most responsible thing you can do is keep those businesses shut down and not have the payoff that Dr. Oz or Phil described at the beginning of this show, where we have to make a trade-off of 3% of our population dying. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable."
It's so hard to say goodbye to companies that had to close. I don't have anything else.
All right. The graffiti of the 21st century has become graphic t-shirts. Henry Holland was a leader in this field, plus high fashion for women. This English gem is well known to me and will be missed, mostly because his voice could be so sharp and loud and occasionally obnoxious. The tragedy of the loss of House of Holland is not because of the gayness. Let's face it, there is no world fashion without the queer eye. But his work is like a modern poet or an author on iconic t-shirts. And he's English. Did I mention that? Our cousins on the other side of the pond are so curiously odd. Combine all of these things and House of Holland will surely be missed. The big finish. The story is happy 82nd birthday to George Takei.
George Takei, of course, from Star Trek fame, has a lot of recent events, including 2020, April 1st of this year, with some a little off-kilter jokes that don't really land. So in honor of that, I hope that you will live long and prosper. And when asked how, he simply said, I just have to cling on.
You have a lot in common with George Takei, then?
The nerdness, for sure. Okay. Both gay.
Oh, my goodness. He is a huge LGBTQ icon. And George Takei, thank you for being you. I popped 3 nails this week, and I had to take them off, but I can do it. Yeah. Live long and prosper. And by the way, you are always retweetable. Like, oh my goodness, he has the best things.
His most famous line is, oh my. I love gay old George Takei. Seriously, he's like a sage for us in the LGBTQ community. He famously, at the Comedy Central roast, told Captain Kirk, William Shatner, after he opened the show riding into the show on one of Shatner's famous horses, Lieutenant Sulu turned and said, quote, Bill, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. And he was completely serious. Speaking of that, it's also Hitler's birthday today, but fuck Hitler. The big finish, the story is, on this day, many years ago, someone first uttered 420 blaze it, and the world trembled. It's April 20, you'll know that, right?
Yeah, 420
okay.
go.
Right.
Yeah, I think this was made for me. Thank you, Chris, in production. And I don't mean to be a roach, but if I could take a dab at a joint joke before the moment vaporizes away, there is nothing funny about 420, to be blunt about it. And that's how you can tell I haven't celebrated yet today.
Okay.
420, 2020, the first time that'll happen and the last time that'll happen in our lifetime. By the way, I thought 420 came from high school. Like, didn't that come from like schools out, let's go blaze? I don't know, but happy national holiday to all the smokers.
You know what's funny? I don't have a joke about pot. I'm thinking about the millions of people in jail right now for nonviolent drug offenses, like weed, which is legal in several states now, mostly minority. It's the top way to lock up black men. Then I think about how stupid America is going to look in the next 10, 20, 50 years looking back, wasting so much time, energy, and money locking people up for something that doesn't even matter. So let's try to forget about all of this nonsense, about coronavirus, about our idiot President Donald Trump, by getting high. Oh yeah, that sounds good. Do you prefer smoking or edibles? For me, it's the latter.
Oh my.
Oh my.
That is today's news for the LGBT community on the world's first daily LGBT evening news show. Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Q News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. This is the only source for live LGBTQ news in the entire world. Your community needs your support. You are not alone. Remember, you're not alone, even in isolation. We'll help get you through this crisis, and we're here with you. And this is Q News Tonight. So thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of my guest co-host, Misty Eyes, and my anchor, Napoleon Plays, we will see you tomorrow night at 7.